Hello, and welcome to PCI Webinars. Today's webinar, The Power of Words, with our presenter, MJ Calloway. MJ is a former corporate sales trainer and only award-winning woman sales executive to rank #1 nationally. MJ knows firsthand the disruptions professionals, managers, and executive teams handle daily. Yet they still need to be positive and productive. She blends her experiences together, sales, speaking, and journalism, to create interactive and impactful workshops. With more than 2,000 articles published in consumer magazines under her own pen name, she's interviewed hundreds of people, from youth entrepreneurs to CEOs to nonprofit founders to professional athletes. She has a unique ability to make others feel like they're talking to a friend. MJ is a 2-time cancer survivor, certified virtual presenter, and past president of the National Speakers Association Pittsburgh chapter. Coming to you now from Pittsburgh, it's MJ Calloway.
Thank you so much, Anne, for that introduction. I appreciate it. You have such a calming voice. Love it. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Power of Words. As we dive into today's webinar, one goal is to see the power of words with a new perspective. Just to be open-minded, to think about how you might want to flip some words and some words you might want to implement into your conversations. Since March of 2020, our world has definitely changed, and I'm sure you will agree with it. And words have become an important element with the wave of changes. Words hold more power. Sometimes that power is good, and sometimes not so good. Being aware of the impact of our words will make a difference in the outcome of our conversations and our connections. So think about a few of these phrases. Think about the powerful words throughout history which have had a lasting difference in our world. The first one, 407 years ago. The second one, I have a dream. And the third one, tear down this wall. Those are definitely powerful words, and they have lasted throughout history. And we'll talk about a few as we're going through this presentation that will have the same impact in years to come. So today, let's move this a little bit. Today, not moving it. Today we will talk about, we will talk about the impact of the words we use. We'll talk about trigger words that can cause havoc. We'll talk about how to change reactive to proactive, and then how to create and power up with positive words. Because when we add positive words, we change our conversations. So how many of you have heard this verse from childhood? Maybe you said it a few times when you were a child. Maybe your kids have said it. I know, having 3 brothers and being the only girl in the family, I definitely had said that to my brothers throughout my childhood. And we think that maybe as a child, words won't hurt us, but words really do hurt us. So in the research, stated in their book, in the book, Words Can Change Your Brain, Andrew Newberg and Mark Waldman found angry words send alarm messages through our brain. And what happens is it partially shuts down the logic and the reasoning centers located in the frontal lobes. So a single negative word can increase that activity in the fear center of the brain. And it happens because it's releasing dozens of stress-producing hormones, and it interrupts our brain's functioning. And the area that it interrupts is that logic and reasoning. So if you're ever wondering why you can't respond after you've been on the receiving end of a negative remark, it's because it's the way your brain is wired. So your brain is wired for it to disrupt whenever negativity, somebody is saying a negative comment or word to you, or even when you're thinking about it yourself. So going back into that brain science, because our brains are hardwired for negativity, according to the University of Michigan, one of the studies, negative thoughts stick with us like chewing gum on the bottom of our shoes. And negative words can make a detour. They can cause us to take a detour from our values. So being very aware of how negativity and negative words impact us is going to make a difference in the way we function every single day. Now, there are definitely trigger words that cause havoc. And there's one industry that has replaced negative words or words that can create a trigger. They replace them with better words because they know that whenever you say those words or you hear these words, that it will cause a reaction or can cause resistance, and it can impact their business. And Ann, let's see if anybody can put in the discussion box there if they know this industry.
Remember, it'll be in the questions box. If anybody wants to type that in, it'll be in the questions box.
Yes, it would be great. Do you know what industry this would be that replaces words that are common in their industry, but they don't want customers to hear those words?
Someone says, with a question mark, media.
Oh, that's a great answer. Thank you. Media actually would be opposite. They want to use hard-hitting impact words because it creates fear. It also creates controversy, and it has people watching the news more. So media would be on the opposite end of it. Do we have any other answers?
Not yet.
Okay, while you're thinking, I'll go ahead to the next slide and share. Does this give you a clue? It's the airline industry. They flip words because they know specific words will create an emotion and will create havoc. So some of these words are life preserver. Think about it. Do you really want to think about you need a life preserver the next time you get on an airplane? Oh, the plane is broken. They definitely do not want to share if there is something broken in the airplane. The next one is, oh, your flight is late. And we lost your luggage. Instead, they have flipped those words. They use flotation device, mechanical difficulties. That sounds so much better than the plane is broken. Instead of saying that your flight is late, they use the word delayed. And instead of saying your luggage is lost, it has been misplaced. They know that they can create negative emotions, so they have made it part of their business to replace those words. Now, there's one more word that if next time you're taking a flight that you want to be aware of. So this is a tip. If you hear the words last minute paperwork, it really isn't last minute paperwork. There's another issue. So make yourself comfortable because the chances of you leaving on time, taking off on time is pretty slim. Last minute paperwork can be one of several issues. There's a change in the flight plan, or it can be an issue with weight and balance. So they have to work that out. Or the maintenance staff needs to adjust something. It could be anything from the plane's logbook, or it could be a minor mechanical difficulty. So if you ever hear that, settle back because you probably will not take off on time. Words, as we had mentioned earlier here, words create reactions. And Harvard psychologist Susan David, who is very well known in the resilience, talking about resilience and in the research of words and thoughts and emotions, she says our thoughts and emotions and the stories drive everything. They drive everything from how we live day to day to how we lead. So when we're leading, whether we are trying to lead a patron or we're trying to lead a staff member, words can create a reaction that can either have them coming with us, being on board, or it can have them hesitating, creating a resistance in them that has them thinking, do I want to do this or not? So being very aware of how words can create either a reaction or they can be proactive. There's a lot of times we have phrases we use, and we use these automatically, and we don't even think about it. So the first one is the labels. Sometimes we have labels about ourselves. I'm not. I'll never finish this course. I'll never be able to get done on time. If only I could. I didn't go. There's one of my clients, she did not finish college. And this is a big issue with her. And it really impacts her self-confidence. And she's always aware of talking to somebody who has a college degree. Her first thought is, I didn't go to college, so what will I talk about? How will I be able to have a conversation with them? So it's looking at those labels that we have, given to ourselves. And we need to lose those labels because those labels, they're energy drainers. So what labels do you have? If you can mark them down, if you wanted to share them, that would be great. But mark them down and think about how can you change those labels? How can you shift them? The other part of this, what phrases could you say that do create the energy drainers? That when you say them, you can feel your body language changing. Maybe you can feel the slump in your shoulders, or maybe like this gentleman in the slide here, you say it and then you're starting with your hands on your head or, on your face, or you don't feel good after you say them. So what are some phrases that you could be saying automatically that you could change? Write them down because we will go through an exercise that will help you flip them. So language is very fluid. I mean, you know how fluid language can be with dealing with books and people and patrons all the time. And with a fluid language, new words can be created, introduced, and made popular by anyone. So think about a number of years ago when Rachel Ray hit the TV circuit. She created several words that ended up in the dictionary. The first word was delish. Delish, so short for delicious. So that was one that Rachel Ray made popular, and it ended up in the dictionary. The other one is uvu, which I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly there, EVOO, extra virgin oil, olive oil. She made that so popular that in 2009, it was added to the Oxford Dictionary. So words can be added, they can be introduced, they can be made popular and end up in a dictionary because our language is fluid according to the times, according to economy, what is happening today in current events. So another one that was made popular, and that is, as you can see the cover here, newsjacking. So newsjacking became widely used in 2011. And it became popular because of David Merman Scott's book, Newsjacking. And newsjacking was a way to take advantage of current trends to promote your product or a brand. And newsjacking became so popular that in 2017, it was also included in the Oxford Dictionary. And it was considered one of the most popular words of the year in 2017. Now, does anybody have any idea? We're going to flip to something that was the most negative word of the year in 2020. So, Ian, if we can see if we get any answers for this or any responses, any ideas, that would be great. What was considered the most negative word of the year in 2020? And this one could be a surprise. I know it was a surprise to me.
For me, it was quarantine, but that's something else.
Quarantine, and that is one that I would think would be one of the most negative words. It wasn't the most negative.
Anybody know?
Any ideas? Take a guess.
Brian is guessing new normal.
Another good choice. You will be very surprised. All right, let's find out what it is. The most negative word of the year, positive. Talk about just something, what a surprise. The word positive was considered the most negative word of the year. How many people are grateful 2020 is over? I know I am. I mean, that is absolutely crazy that the word positive, a positive word, was the most negative. And that's how quickly language can change. That's how fluid language is. One day, the word positive can be a great word to use, and the next day, it can be the worst word to use. So what are words to avoid in 2021? And this comes from the group Throughline. And this is a media and public speaking website, a very popular website, and it is listed in your resources. So a number of words that they say, and you can check out that list, but a few that I pulled were the gender occupations, because this would be in everyday conversation. So what that is, gender occupations. So skip the salespeople. You want to skip the salespeople or salesmen, chairmen, and policemen. Instead, we want to go into the person. So, or for police, we would do officer, salesperson, chairperson, or chair position. So being very aware of not making it gender specific when we're talking about occupations. The next one is suffering from. So we want to be aware of using suffering from. She's suffering from COVID. Instead, oh, this person was diagnosed with. So being aware using suffering from. And the next one, victim of. The word victim is one of the words we want to avoid in 2021. Some other words that were not listed, however, I had put out to a survey with over 100 people that had answered, and words that they said they wanted to avoid in 2021. And this survey was unvaccinated. They felt that saying vaccinated and unvaccinated caused a line dividing the country. And then the other one was the Delta variant. So those were ones that they had wanted to avoid using in this year to come. One of the stats that I wanted to share that actually is a very thought-provoking stat, Americans feel in 2021, Americans feel they're most unhappiest in 50 years. So that, talk about a stopper here, something that makes you stop and makes you think. So what can we do to change that situation? What can we do? We can start, with ourselves. And then we can also start with those around us, those that we are working with every day, from our coworkers to our patrons. What words can we use that can be uplifting, that can help change their day? So first, let's look at what we can avoid. So these are the oldies. Use caution with, these are words that are common words we use in everyday life that we can avoid using. We can change these words to a more positive word choice. So the first one is must. You must do that. Oh, how about you get to do that? So switching must to get. Most of us know using the word should is not a good word to use. So changing it to could or would is so much better. The word suppose. This I actually had airline, a flight attendant use on me once. I had put a bag under my chair, under the chair in front of me, that held handcrafted ornaments. And I had put my bigger case, my laptop case, up above. And her words to me were, you're supposed to put the smaller one up above and the bigger one underneath. And I was like, supposed to do? Like, that's a word that we wouldn't want to hear in any industry, especially one in the hospitality industry. So instead, we could use the word get again, or could. Could you? The next one, obviously. So using the word, and obviously is one, sometimes is used whenever we're feeling a little annoyed or frustrated. So could we flip it to, sure you can do that. Sure you can get the book out for another 2 weeks. Sure. So sure is given affirmation in a kinder way. And any way that we can flip our words to be kinder to others, we can uplift them. The word tell. The word tell is one of those words that can go back to childhood. Think about having a teacher lecture you, or put you on the defensive, or maybe a parent, or maybe as a parent, we did that to our own children. But instead, can we switch that to share? Can you share with me what happened? Can you let me know what happened? Those words are so much easier in a conversation, and they don't put the other person on the defensive as much as these 5 words here will do. So how can we power up with positive choices? And when we go back to that stat about Americans are the unhappiest now in 50 years, having positive choices can help change that statistic. It can help change someone's day. We can make a difference in the words that we use, because positive words have a big impact. So here's what the research says. Positive words and simple ones such as peace and love can alter the expression of genes, strengthening areas in our frontal lobes and promoting the brain's cognitive functioning. So what it comes down to is positive words propel the motivational centers of the brain into action. So if we are able to give someone a positive word, and it can propel them into motivation, into motivating them to do something, isn't that a good thing? Isn't that something we want to try to do? The other part of it is it also helps build resiliency. So if a positive word that we offer to someone can help build a more resilient person, imagine what we can do using positive words every single day. We have the ability to change that statistic. One positive word can be enough to increase employee engagement. It can be enough to create healthier cultures. One positive word can be enough to build someone up. One positive word can be enough to turn someone's life around. And those are what we need to think about whenever we engage in conversation. And in order to have positive conversations, we want to think about skipping the reactive and being proactive. So reactive is me. I am in my head. And sometimes we're reactive during a situation and we're using words that can create a negative emotion because we are thinking from our own perspective. We're in our own head, our own perspective, our own mindset. When we're proactive, we focus on the other person. Being proactive enables us to have a positive communication because we are thinking about the other person. So the easy way to think about this whenever you're having a conversation, this is especially important whenever we're having tough conversations. Whatever I am going to say, is it coming from my perspective, or that's being reactive, me, or am I thinking what is best for the other person? That is being proactive. So here's a couple of examples, and these are examples of what had happened in 2020. So I work with several libraries in my local area, and one of the issues that we had worked on was the calls all the time coming in, are you open? And then the automatic response, think about automatic responses. We talked about also reactive, no, that's your first response because it is reactive and it is automatic. We don't have to say the word no. We don't have to answer it the way that we think we have to answer it, in that automatic reactive way. Instead, with working with those libraries, here's what we did. We changed it to, at this time, we're keeping everyone healthy by offering you curbside service. So the no would have been reactive about me or the person answering the phone. And this is proactive. It's about the patron. It's about what they need. So whenever you're given responses, pause. And then think about, what can I say that is proactive? Another situation that happened actually when I was on site was there was a woman who sat down in the teen only section. and the personnel went over and said, this is only for teens. That only is exclusive. And yes, it was a teen area. However, it does put that person in an uncomfortable position. So instead, a better way to respond would be, are you meeting a teen here? Another one could be, this is our teen area. Let me show you how to get to our adult area, and then walk that person over. Or the last is, I'll be happy to show you how to get to our adult area. And sometimes when we're in this situation, we don't always have time to think about a proactive response. So if there are automatic responses that you do say on a regular basis, write them down now so that you can work on them as we go through the Flip It exercise. Or work with a coworker to see how you can switch these, and then it can be something that can be posted in the staff only area, and that everybody can work on making more proactive choices in the days to come. So one other one that I want to mention here is, before we go into Flip It, how many times have you ever been, or let's think, have you ever been late to a meeting, or meeting someone for coffee, or meeting someone for lunch? And the first response is, I'm so sorry, or I'm sorry I'm late. And that's a typical response. That's a common response because we are sorry that we are late. However, we can flip that one. And instead of saying, I'm sorry, because that's all about me, let's flip it to, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for waiting for me. I appreciate it. That turns it into a proactive response, because the other person did wait for you. And that's an honor for someone to give us their time. So it's an easy way to flip it so that we're honoring them for waiting for us. So what is Flip It all about? So Flip It is taking a negative response or reactive response, and it is flipping it. Oh, there's one more that I'd love to mention. So one of the libraries that I had worked with, one of the responses that became a consistent response, they were in the middle of a very lengthy remodel. And a lot of the responses were, will this ever be done? You know, they're trying to work, they're trying to help people get books, they're trying to get books out that are requested. And it was definitely a trying time. It was a challenge. Instead of saying, will this ever be done? We could flip it to, what can I do right now during this remodel? What can I do right now when all this is happening? So it turns it into a different situation, because we're skipping the negative and we're going into a positive question that's looking for a solution. So Flip It. So what is Flip It all about? Flip It is a technique that I use throughout my cancer journey. So, and as Anne mentioned, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor in the last 5 years. And it's one of the ones that I had used frequently. And it happened because when I had shared with my young adult children, the prognosis I was given for the first one was a 20% chance of surviving over 5 years if chemo hadn't worked, and chemo had a 50% chance of working. Well, you can imagine, I could see the body language, just going out of my kids. It was like one of those balloons that you blow up, you let the air out, and it's just a mess. Or think of an athlete that just lost a Super Bowl, their body language. And I knew it was up to me to change the perspective over the next 18 months during the treatment. So I flipped whatever word had a negative connotation. So flipping, and I will show you how I flipped it. So if you have a piece of paper, take that piece of paper, and down the middle of it, you want to draw a line down the middle of it. And then on the left side, write negative at the top, and on the right side, write positive. So take a negative word, and as you're going through, write down whatever negative words that come to mind. I will use the word chemo. So chemo in the left-hand side. So how could I flip it so that instead of it bringing a frown to everybody, it would actually uplift them? So I changed it to magic wand. And I changed it to magic wand because I believed that it would decrease the tumors and I would be healthier. The other one was radiation. So radiation became buzz because let's face it, Buzz Lightyear, you have to smile when you think of it. Now, you don't have to go through a major adversity like that. Every day we have words that are negative to us. Every day we have minor setbacks. The goal here is to find a way to flip it so it makes it easier to handle, easier to manage. Now, I'll give you another example. So one of my clients, because of COVID changes and mandates, and every time the executive director talked about mandates, she could see everybody in this staff, their body language changing. So we flipped it to, oh, we have another wave coming. Oh, we have another wave of changes coming. So it made it more of an upbeat situation rather than that negative situation. Another one was, think of the word six pack. The word six pack, it can be a lot of different images. It can be anything from the six pack that's a core in the stomach to a six pack of water or a six pack of adult beverages. Six pack, though, for one of my clients was 6 challenging customers. So whenever they were talking about their challenging customers, it was, oh, I have another one to add to the six pack. So it changed the situation that made it easier to handle. So what do you need to flip? And let's go through these. These are common words that could be in your conversations. These could be typical words that could be in everyday conversations, whether it's with a patron or whether it's with a coworker, or maybe it's in your personal life. So here are ways that we can flip those words. So no, we can go yes and, which is an improv techniques. Or instead of thank you for asking that question, rather than saying no. Because when someone hears the word no, they usually don't hear anything after it. It sort of shuts down the brain. Fault. So instead of fault, oh my goodness, it's my fault. Well, it's my lesson I learned. Can't, well, what can we do? So instead of saying, I can't get that book, well, I can get that book to you in 2 weeks. Disruption. Instead of disruption, it can be an opportunity or a journey, or it can be improvise. We can improvise. And expired, eliminate the word expired. Oh, let's renew it. So easy way to flip it using that flip it technique. Now, the other part of the flip it technique is once you flip the word, we want to say it out loud 3 to 5 times. So we are cementing it in our brain and we're saying it so that it easily rolls off the tip of our tongue. And face it, we need some practice there to get rid of the word we replaced it with. So repeating it allows you to do that. Okay. So what words do you need to flip? Are there words that you want to share with us that we can work with flipping for you? So Anne, let's see if we have a couple of words. We'll just give it a few seconds before we move on. Oh, danger is another one of those words that can be used. Danger, safe. So instead of, oh, that's a danger to do that. Oh, let's do this instead to keep you safe.
Someone just suggested chronic.
Chronic. Oh, like a chronic disease or chronic problem. We could switch it to consistent. That's the first one that came to mind. But the other one, chronic, I will have to think about that. I'll let that sort of brew in my brain a little bit. Anne, can you think of one for chronic?
The only thing that comes to my mind is continuous or
Continuous.
even lifelong. I'm not sure if that's true. I'm trying to think of a situation where a chronic disease goes away eventually.
There are some childhood ones that do go there. They are chronic during childhood and they do go away. So it can be at this time rather than lifelong.
Right. Or long term.
Long term. Long term's probably better than chronic. Oh, definitely better than chronic. Long term.
Okay, we have a couple more in there. One is shortage. And that's going to be a big one for the next few months.
That is definitely.
Frustrated.
Okay, so shortage could be minimal. So minimal sounds better than shortage. Right now we're working with a minimal staff instead of we have a shortage right now. So because minimal also, because we think minimal prices, minimal time. So that would be an easy one to flip it to minimal. Okay, what was the other one?
The other one is frustrated.
Frustrated. Okay, so instead of frustrated, because frustrated, annoyed, this has taken some emotion. Because it has taken your emotion. I'd rather go that way because emotion can be a positive thing too.
And those are the only ones we have so far.
Okay, and now think about frustrated. Because I can always send you an email too with some more positive, but off the top of my head, those are the ones that I'm thinking about. Frustrated. There will be something else that comes to mind. Emotion.
Anger.
Yeah. That one I would stick with emotion too. Oh, that causes a little bit of emotion. And then on the flip side is ask the question. So let's make it, so instead of I'm angry right now, what can I do right now that I can be happy? What can I do right now to change the situation so I'm in a better mind frame? I would flip those into a question. So when we ask a question, such as those two that I just gave, what happens is it engages our mind, engages our brain to find a solution. So when we're thinking right now, I am frustrated, let's flip that into a question. What can I do to change the situation so that I can be happier, or I can be more productive, or I can put a smile on my face? That's how I would flip those situations. I would look into asking myself a question. And that is what I did throughout I called it the pink pumpkin journey. So I would look at whenever there was a negative, and I'll give you another example. The doctors and nurses always called me a patient, and I would always say, please call me a guest because I don't plan on being here very long. So there's a way that we can flip it, whether it's a question or whether it's another word or a phrase. Make sense? And you can speak for the general public. Does that make sense to you?
I'm speaking for everyone here, right? Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, good. So write those words down that, if you didn't put them in the chat, write those words down because we're going to bring those back up at the end for action steps. Okay, so what are ways that you can have better conversations? What are 3 steps to have more powerful conversations? So the first one, it says take yourself out. So with it, pause. Pause, give yourself a few seconds. Also, take a deep breath. A lot of times we think we have to answer right away. We can take a pause and then focus on the other person. So when we focus on the other person, it changes the direction of our words in our conversation. The second is, what is the bigger picture? So what is best for the entire library? What is best for everyone? Instead of what is best for me, what is best for everyone? Or if it's a conversation, say it's a conversation between me and the patron, it's what is best for that other person. And the last one is, how can you shift? And this is going back to the example I gave about, can you turn it into a positive question that doesn't cause resistance? So some of those words that were mentioned, turning those into a question that now we're looking for a solution. It's solution-based. So those are 3, and they're easy steps. They're easy steps for us to follow. When we think about it, it's three simple steps that will create an unbelievable change with your conversations. So specific words can be considered power words. And these are words that can elevate your conversations. These are powerful words. And this goes from research again. And these are the words that are to be the top words to use. And let's face it, you and name, because everyone wants to hear their name. A person's favorite word is their first name. So anytime we can use a first name, we want to do so. Also the word you, because the listener is more apt to listen. You know, this book will be reserved for you. Would you like to register for this virtual program? This book is similar to the other ones you love. You know, so anytime you can insert those you and a first name, do so because it changes the direction of the conversation. Free. The library offers so many free programs. Think about every time somebody takes a book out, you know, they're saving money. So with it, you know, think about a paperback. It's $8.99. So that person, they now have $9 in their pocket. So free, you get to take out all these books for free. You get to register for this program for free. We have another program coming up that's free to you. So inserting that in there, the word free gets people excited because everyone loves a bargain. So new. New is another one of those words. Think about the manufacturers who put new and improve on any product that has one simple change. And they do that because they know people will purchase it. So whenever there's a new program, insert it. This is our new program. Or if there's a policy, our new program enables you to. So it's new is another way to introduce a program change Now, when you do it, and it might be a policy change a policy change that might not be one that people like, find a good benefit to that policy change and insert that at the end of it. An example is our new policy enables you to get your books curbside. So that goes back to 2020, but think about what's the benefit at the end of it. So use new policy, add a benefit to it. It will make it easier for people to digest. The word because, the word because prepares people for a reason. It prepares the brain for a reason. We changed our policy because it will keep you safe. We changed our policy because it will give you more options. So using that word because. Can is a great word because it leads to action. So rather than making it a decision, it's an action. You can do this. So using the word can. And do is the other one. Do is an action word. It also is a commitment word. So adding that into your conversation. The word let's, it promotes togetherness and cooperation. So it's a good one to use with staff and patrons. And the last one is when and will. So when blank happens, you will get. So when and will. Adding those into any conversation is going to help you elevate your conversations. And the suggestion here is because there's a lot, if you're not using any of these words now, that's a lot to add all at once. So the suggestion would be to add one a week. Work on one at a time. And you can work on one at a time, as a department, as a staff. And these are great words to use with your family too. Anytime you can incorporate words like this with your family, you're raising kids that have better, positive communication skills, which is always a good thing. So one word can change someone's day. It can definitely make a difference in someone's life. So one word, I don't know how many people have heard of having one word for the year. And this would be a great exercise to do as a library. At the beginning of every year, I have one word that represents my year. And I start thinking about the word for the next year in the fall. And because I'm planning out my 2021 or 2022, and I'm thinking about what do I want that year to be. And I will tell you during the Pink Pumpkin journey, one of my word was protection. I needed to protect myself. I needed to protect my mindset. I needed to protect my immune system. And I needed to protect the actions that were happening around me. So what word would you want as a department? What word would you want as a library? This is one that you can have your patrons involved in. Post it at the beginning of the year, or in December, have people vote on it. So make it, an interactive activity and get everyone involved, because the more people that are involved, the more invested people become in it. And there's actually a website, and it is called oneword365.com that you can join. It's a free site. You can join and you can post your word for the year. And they do offer articles throughout the year. So what would your word for the year, thinking about 2022? So think about it. You can even do a word for your personal life or your family, as well as your professional life or as a library as a whole. So how can you use creativity? And I know we're coming up on the end here, so I need to scoot through these slides here. So how can you use creativity to increase positive communication? Where can you add a little creativity to uplift others? So these are in your resources. So these are ones that I created that I use in my workshops. You can post these throughout the library and you can cut them so that they're tags that people can rip off. So they can give someone a compliment. So that you can post. So your action steps moving forward is to track what I call your chalkboard words. These are words that might not be great ones because these are words that, think about a chalkboard. If you run your fingers down it really adds chills. So those words are trigger words that add chills. So how can you replace them? And you can do that using Flipit. And then insert that activity, implement take one. How can you give a compliment? How can your patrons take one to give compliments to someone else? Create that interaction. So you have that in the resources. You also have in the resources, you have a resource that gives you the book title and some additional links in there and articles. So remember, when you change your words, you change your life and you change those around you. So I thank you so much. You're welcome to connect with me. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer any questions. All right, Ann?
Okay, MJ, good, thank you. Are there anybody else with questions out there? Right at the end of the hour, but we could take a couple questions.
Right at the end, I inserted something improv. Yes, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't see anything else coming through. I want to thank you all for attending and for your active participation today. Show that you were paying attention, which is always good. And I want to thank MJ for putting this together. Great work and always interesting stuff for us to ponder.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'm just seeing the thanks on there. Thank you.
Right, that's what I'm looking for too. I don't see any questions, just the thank yous coming through. So thank you all for attending, and thank you, MJ, and we'll see you again soon at another PCI webinar. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
All right. Have a bounce up day.